Welcome, everyone. Is it loud? Thank you so much for being here tonight. I have been looking forward to this for what feels like ages. My name is Max Crandall. I'm the executive director of Small Press Traffic. Woohoo! I'm thrilled to present Cecily Nicholson and Leila Weefur tonight here at Et al. Gallery. And this is our kickoff event for a spring season that will bring us the conversations that we need to have right now. Thank you to Et al. For hosting us today in the home that they so graciously share with us. Thank you to my staff, Noah Ross, woohoo, Thea Walsh, and Kevin C.K. Lowe is here, and our brilliant and hot volunteers for the evening tonight. Emerson Lee, woo! Willa Smart at the bar, Diana Cage. Thank you all. I just have a few remarks before we get started about this moment and where we are. As artists, activists, and culture makers, we're all connected to people and organizations who are struggling right now and who are worried about what's to come. We're thinking side by side with people in poetry and in the Bay arts scene about how to band together for sustainability in the face of funding freezes and government censorship. So even as I worry, and I know we need to worry, we're already worried given the cutting of things like the Dream Keepers initiative here at home to the threats in Trump's executive orders. I know that Small Press Traffic and what it represents as a community project has survived for over 50 years. Even before I moved to the Bay, SPT impacted my life, helping me to imagine a place for work that doesn't conform, helping me to feel connection and belonging to radical political literatures across space and time. Small Press Traffic will always exist, and we have always existed because of people like us who value the work and risks that artists take in order to create change. So tonight, go back, get a drink. If you're able, donate $5 to us. And keep showing up this season. Anytime you kick us some of your hard-earned money, you're shifting what's possible for art and literature in the Bay. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing SPT's newest board member, an artist deeply enmeshed across poetry scenes in the Bay, the art director of Quiet Lightning, Connie Zhang. Connie, yes, woohoo! I'm so excited to have Connie on board. Connie is a multidisciplinary artist and writer whose work you've all seen locally this year at places like Root Division, the Palo Alto Arts Center, Gallery 16, and at Yerba Buena's Bay Area Now 9, where she participated in the Action for Palestine. Connie's work meditates on diasporic memory, the geopolitics of labor, among so many other themes, taking up materials such as seeds, maps, and language. I'm a huge fan of her work, and I'm so thrilled to have her join the board. And she's here tonight to introduce our readers, so please give her a warm welcome. Connie.
Hi. Okay, thank you for that introduction, Max, and thank you all for being here. So this evening, I am honored to be introducing both Leila Weefur and Cecily Nicholson, artists and writers whose work invite us into lineages of emancipatory thought rooted in land and abolitionist practices of collective resistance and care. They model for me the crucial work of building expansive diasporic subjectivities grounded in place, often by centering Black labor and embodiment. This work is all too urgent amidst the reactionary political climate in which we find ourselves presently. While thinking about this conversation tonight, I felt like there couldn't be a more appropriate opening salvo for the first day of Black History Month. If you have been a part of the Bay Area arts ecosystem at any point over the past 10 plus years, you've likely encountered the work of Leila Weefur. By way of a very short introduction, Leila Weefur is an artist, writer, and curator based in Oakland, California. Through film and architecture, they examine the performative elements connected to systems of belonging present in Black, queer, gender variant embodiment. Weefur has worked with local and national institutions, including Black Star Productions, Princeton University's Lewis Center for the Arts, CCA's Wattis Institute, McAvoy Foundation, Berkeley Art Museum, and Pacific Film Archive, Museum of the African Diaspora, and The Kitchen. Most recently, Leila is the curator of the film series Landscapes of Myth, Westerns After the Searchers, which is screening at the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive from now until the end of the month. Landscapes of Myth asks us to witness how the cinematic trope of the Western explores the frontier mythologies, cowboy tropes, fetishization and erasure of indigenous peoples, and spectacles of conflict that are central to the settler nation's ideology of itself. In an extension of Leila's broader artistic and writing practice, this series asks necessary questions about who and what this nation is, what it wants to be, and still/always has the potential to become. I've also been fortunate to experience and have the honor of showing alongside Leila's installation and video work. Most recently, their Chapel of Becoming, a transcendental architectural installation that celebrates the transgender community and queer thought while cleverly subverting Abrahamic traditions. I've admired Leila's work for many years now and am constantly awed by the grace, incisiveness, and interrogative power of their work, which moves across scales and materials with the ease of water cutting across stone. Please join me in welcoming Leila Weefur to the stage.
Wow, thank you, Connie. That was really beautiful writing. Thank you. I feel very honored to have been introduced by you. And I was honored to stand alongside Connie and a few others for the action for Palestine against YBCA, which seems like ages ago, but it was not. Anyway. Sorry about that. Thank you, Max and Noah, also for asking me to read tonight. Really excited to be here and share a newish piece, something I've been working on over the last 6 months or so. So thank you for being here on a rainy night. I got this tattoo the other day of the word elastic. Elastic. It sounds in my mouth the way it feels. The muscle tongue stretch of ELA and the snap of the TIC. Like the thing itself begins with that quick, slick E, expands into last, launches off the elastic L, snaps through the ascending ass sound, springs to tick, contracts back to where it started. The word remembers its own physics, potential energy stored in stretched syllables, kinetic release in speaking, a mouthfeel, onomatopoeia, sound in substance joined in perfect tension. Elastic. I long to be the material that has the ability to withstand distortion and find its way back to its origins. Like the oil-slicked mini rubber bands at the ends of box braids. Like a bungee cord tying down, securing, absorbing shock, resisting the weight of momentum. Like polytetrafluoroethylene spandex holding in my thick black thighs. Like a ball of freshly chewed pink bubblegum sticking to the peaks and valleys of my molars, stretching across the interior of my lips, blown and stretched out, trapping my breath in a large round membrane until it breaks under tension. Elastic like the limp chewing gum being pulled at and twirled around the tip of my finger. A hold. Warping. Temporary. How amazing to resist and expand without permanent damage. I feel like there are so many things that come up in my life that are reminders for me to be elastic. And I don't know why, but I have attached myself to this philosophy of elasticity, to be the material that can withstand distortion and find its way back to its origins. Like time, queer time, stretchy and boundless but firm. Like a sticky bread dough, recombinant and glutinous, enveloping any solid it makes contact with. I don't know why, but I have attached. Perhaps it's because there is nothing in me that resembles the soft material that is elastic. Everything in me feels so hard, so solid like compacted earth, with a weight and a presence. It holds, and it can hold a tremendous weight. It can even expand or be molded like fictal earth, but not in the elastic way. Not without causing internal and external damage. Irreparable, visible. Sometimes when I open my eyes in the morning, I feel grief pooled like mercury in my diaphragm. That elastic drum between lungs and gut where breath learns its rhythm. I pull at that grief to see if it is tensile enough to become something else. I pull at that grief to test its tensile strength, wondering if, like polymerized emotion, it might stretch past its yield point into new geometries of feeling, generating a thick and viscous form. To take new shape, and in that shape, learning something it can bring back with it when it returns to its original form. Elastic. Like the textured black nitrile gloves suffocating a fisting hand. Like queer time. Queer. Time, like leather gone latex strange, breaking the laws of physics. Gone vests and boots and belts, gone chaps and corsets, gone belts to straps and wrist and ankle cuffs to collars and harnesses, things that should be hard gone body soft. Time like the collagen fibers that once held muscle to bone, now twisting into impossible elasticity. The microstructure, a mesh of protein chains cross-linked and stretchy. Queer like leather developing memory like a polypropylene, snapping back to shape after deformation. Remembering its animal state, once dermis, but dead and now becoming. Time gone paddles to whips and floggers and cords. Roped. I am losing myself in the stretches of queer intimacy. The yielding boundaries of queerness. They say I look sad. I am. They ask me if I want to talk about it. I shake my head no. No, I don't. I recognize this as a moment where I'm denying the opportunity to stretch myself emotionally, not trusting my words to be rubbery, soft, gelatinous. Too difficult to explain that I'm weighing in my mind the deep pleasure of waking up with my arms around them and the sticky feeling of having to pull apart our sweaty, slumbering bodies to fight the gravity and pressing our skulls into feather-down pillows to start yet another day. Another day with my feet pedaling concrete, wishing instead for them to be bouncing on top of a polyfoam coiled mattress. Bouncing with nimbleness while I learn how to let my relationships be what they are and not ask them to stretch in directions they don't want to. Another day wishing for footsteps quiet and light, like the silky locomotion of a spider along a delicate web of silver threads, a woven elastic lace, beautiful in the way it connects strangers and traps enemies. Queer time. To be elastic is to know intimately the resistance holding everything together at the core. There is no elasticity without resistance, but without the continuum of resistance, there is only destruction. Elastic. The way I know and live queer time in my body. I was only she before, but dysmorphed my way into reluctant he with she-they properties. Skin stretched my way out of breasts. Temporality extended across becoming bodies, across bodies stretched, up in and through bodies, pulled around bodies. Like my hands, fingers full of my lover's skin, stretched thigh, skin, hip, skin, ass, fat to fill my empty, hungry, desirous hands. Like my palm meeting your rounded cheeks and imprinting itself in the sweat-glazed bounce like wet rubber. That sweet, stinging elastic residue, a heat, building in the uninterrupted spank and grab and seeing skin stretched to shades of red, palmed and pinched, to expand and contract and snap back into itself. Like the stretch of saliva plastered across my soul and mouth. My face, your tongue, bound. Drip, sweat and spit, bound. Pull apart, pull out, slow. Spread lips, fingers spread to see the string of your insides in my webbed hands. Elastic, like the cinched corners of a fitted bedsheet, threatening to release itself. The hair tie pulling together curls, coils, tight, loose, thick, fine, slick, straight hair. Elastic like slipping your consciousness into an alternate when and where. Light and shadows, soft focus, wide frame, rolling, speed. Elastic like cinema. Escape into an elastic reality. In cinema time, you can lose sense of you and the ground beneath you. You lose sense of the moment before and after you consented your imagination to belong to the story. The sense of yourself and your boundaries are momentarily dissolved into a screen. Cinema time. Narrative conceit. Where it's 50 years ago and 20 years later, where the color of this reality drains into a verite realism, 16 millimeter, black and white. Into an Osman Simbane Senegalese summer. Advance frame, click, purr. Where the stark contrast of Senegalese black and French colonial white burns through the glass, bending into the choritic chambers of the lens barrel. Where the language surrenders itself when people say, I love you in Wolof and I hate you in French. Cinema time language, tongue curls like a living thing, spreading and contracting like muscle memory. As elastic as the spilled blood of the black girl on white porcelain, a death suspended in gelatin, creating an invisible latent image, a ghost of electrons trapped in silver. Watching a film is not just escape from reality. Watching is witnessing. Witnessing is seeing. What you are engaging in is a profoundly cognitive and perceptual process, working to simulate a version of reality, drawing tiny, delicate lines between your brain and the image, assembling an alternate social reality. Creating one's own cinema time is a post-structuralist cinematographic practice. Building a vision of yourself through an image world where time is stretched and compressed. How elastic is this reality? Is this real-time material that has the ability to withstand distortion and find its way back to its origins? Can right now be stretched? Taking that core from its comfortable resting position, relaxed, unstrained, and pulling at the edges of its skin to expand and grab at its surroundings. I want to stretch past my capacity, create a spacious internal world in the negative space. I want to stretch past my capacity, be more resilient, circumvent the stretch marks, and leave no evidence behind. No evidence of my inability to make this material expand. But I realize this elastic isn't free at either end, it is an enclosure, a seductive Mobius strip. Infinite elasticity twirling its way into and out of itself, but containing the matter in the in-between. I want to stretch past my capacity, but I've stretched, and I'm worried I might have stretched past my capacity and can't return to my original form. Pulling at the rubber band wrapped around my wrist, pulling it taut and releasing it to snap against the skin of my wrist. A welted reminder I'm still here, and the stretch didn't destroy me. But I'm writing this to connect to my capacity to change, to be elastic like the strings on an upright bass, to be struck into oscillation and hum myself back into place. Writing this to connect to that elastic center where there is somewhere but hiding behind solidified magma. To be elastic is to know intimately the resistance at the core, material under tension, keeping shape under external force. I stare out into a field of black. I let that grief shape itself into a tear. And I let cry spill into the glass of water they gave me to calm me. There's a tiny insect body in my cup, buoyed by the mixture of tears and tap water. A floating body bouncing at the surface, finding the elasticity of water to be soothing. Discovering the water's ability to retain form in any shape it's contained in. I've attached myself to being the container because containers are familiar, hard and reliable restraint. But I mistook the water for being formless. So I got this tattoo of the word elastic on my shin, the hardest part of my body, to remind me of my body's ability to withstand distortion and find its way back to its origins. Thank you.
Wow. Can we just give Leila another round of applause? That was stunning, huh? Thank you, Leila. I definitely, I feel like, thank you for that very generous work. So what a joy it was for me to spend this Saturday morning reading some of Cecily Nicholson's words against a backdrop of winter rain. I found particular pleasure in a few excerpts from her 2022 book, Harrowings. In Harrowings, she weaves together poems, ekphrasis, and writings from major figures from Black intellectual and farming history, such as Frederick Douglass, George Washington Carver, and the 18th century poet Phillis Wheatley. Nicholson's writing floods these interweavings with a sense of sacredness and maps out a geography of rural Ontario and British Columbia that is lyrical, historically attentive, and models the possibilities for an anti-colonial discourse rooted in land and poetic language. Lines such as history as decomposition and field against nature, natural, anchored in rot, serve as reminders of what can be learned from soil and from when we work across scale and temporalities. Cecily Nicholson is an award-winning author of 5 books of poetry, a community worker, and the current Holloway Lecturer in the practice of poetry at the University of California, Berkeley. She has worked for years in museum and arts education and is a longtime volunteer with Emma's Acres, an agricultural social enterprise and restorative justice program led by community impacted by carcerality and food insecurity. She is a past recipient of the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize and a Governor General's Literary Award. Her most recent work, Crowdsource, published by Spiral Editions last fall, considers the diurnal movement of crows. Visiting us in the Bay from Vancouver, BC, Nicholson is an assistant professor in the School of Creative Writing at the University of British Columbia. We're so thrilled and honored to be hosting her at Small Press Traffic and et al., and to hear her reading this evening. Please join me, everyone, in extending a warm welcome to Cecily Nicholson.
Adjust mic awkwardly. Okay, there we go. Sonia, thank you so much for the time and that introduction. Leila, wow, powerful voice. I'm really honored to share space. I'm comfortable. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Oh, mic goes this way. My thanks to Small Press Traffic. So much work goes into these things, and so all the workers, the volunteers, all y'all creating space, I'm so grateful. And I read with Small Press another iteration of you almost 10 years ago, and at the time reading with the wonderful Tongo Eisen Martin, and I got to say that reading and that introduction kind of changed my life. And I anticipate this will be a similar experience in terms of meeting folks. Thanks to et al. Gallery, what a cool space. And to my heart, I love an artist-run center, and this is the feeling here, led by our community, led by our artists. Yeah, I'm set up temporarily in East Bay, I've learned it's called. And it's the traditional territory called Huichin. And this is the ancestral homelands of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. It's a privilege always to stand on occupied land, which is inevitably the case when we're here in North America. And my intentions here are to contribute to teaching and mentoring. And then over the last 25 years that I've lived in Vancouver, I know how critical and important it is to connect to this place. Y'all, there's something in terms of poetics and struggle that we listen to and we learn from and collude with and in rebellious and joyful poetics. So my honor. I am going to read from Crowdsource. Crowdsource is a chapbook. Shout out Spiral Editions, who was kind enough to create this very handsome and it looks like dashing. I don't know. Can a chapbook be attractive? Window, I guess, onto this project that is now in book form and will be forthcoming this spring. So Crowdsource, as mentioned, is a study or maybe a conversation, if you will, with the daily movement of crows across Metro Vancouver. But not just Metro Vancouver, many urban centers, of course. The crows always are around, except for in New Zealand. I don't know why, what's up with New Zealand, but and every day in our neck of the woods, crows fly daily, except for in fledgling season, in and out of the city, and they roost every night at dusk at a place called the Still Creek in the heart of so-called Burnaby, but what was historically a watershed where spawning, which was spawning grounds for salmon, all the salmon, and now is a commercial industrial zone. But if you go there at dusk, 25,000 crows are there going to sleep, one eye open, but they're there. So I'm going to jump in. I have 3 epigraphs, beginning with one from my own book, Wayside Sang. Scarce comb through ease, some evenings gain control of time, and I work for nobody. Nobody spur road spread copper gold, tiger rock, rust valleys of emotional commodities linked in a jumpy price. No rush cracks the care and case lines of scarification. And the free burns that build on down here where trust and touch has been lost, guns atop tipples, industry's legacy is the policed state. But our wrists wash the windows on the hi-hat quest. No adjectives, just enter and fight and exit. Quote, and the time in me will hush, and then we will be listening for real. Alexis Pauline Gumbs. Long dark blues through the static and distance. Jason Molina. Those eyes, lined in laughter, fond from the floor up, understory as the flies. I hike, carrying my body to elevation, to rest, a coal between 2 sisters, snowy peaks. The alpine air quality up close, trace elements, ancient volcanic vents, arched necks, narrow onlookers. Behold, all colors in the sun-up dance beautifully. A show of claws, crack, crack, slide, sidestep, power line, black brew, too many to be kept off the crop. And our hollow bones descend on grain, sorghum native forage to Red Sea fields, near ripening corn milk and dough, windrowed, peanuts, commercial sunflowers, pecans, watermelon, great game fruits for many blackbirds, especially grackles. Labor, gathered in damage. When the birds visit country, Arkansas, Kaw, backstories brim the lip of silos and adjust with a clattering. They do not scare easily, although they easily scare. Forward momentum clamors. These birds are not dying. They refuse to die. They refuse to leave this plane. In fact, existential bullets shoot out of their sockets. Their eyeballs will not be plucked. That feeling now in my hips with ruffles rids the yearning for omens, untuned lately, reaching to grasp at nothing sound as it once was, were. It has been an accelerated year. Here, worse and worsening. Grasps on situation. A main strategy is to break mollusk shells, is to drop them from enough height onto the right surface, a neighboring airfield, other hard tarmacs, a hard practice, whelk, dropping, experiencing the bold indifference of substrates. Urban heat islands when the winds are weak. Traffic against the grain, early for the morning. Everyday dives, bold for carrion, split, gutted, battered, ready for the birds pulling at the pulp in the left passing lane on the Trans-Canada Highway. You swerve to miss them at great risk, and I am grateful. That same drive-by, we were startled again by a deer plodding along the median, perhaps searching for a way off an enclosed green strip partly under construction, its July beans short and spongy, visible from our hurried shell. Episodically, the call goes out, and it's this poem. Writing cars underneath their route nouns and articles as the day winds down, working to calm down, wreck a dance mix, return to write, necessity, and detonate, burst, iridescence about the barbule quills of green, bright, trying, ain't no thing but a willing presence. Stop in the private tracks of destiny and interrupt its productivity and its touristry. The merch is young and fading individuals more naturally and efficiently into we towhees. I keep spotting and then hearing them. Heat distressed holds on to a low branch in a stupor. Some blackening medicine needs brewing. Hydration, clogged eaves troughs, the day's rain tea. Strength returns in flight. Gather air currents, gather height. Throat movements up and down rid heat from their body. Through an open bill sunbath, terrible heat, their throats move like molting to extend feather life. It's a striving in some old way. And I learned my old ways on a porch. A worker plus another worker is a crowd. During smoke breaks, the loading dock, lawn, ditch, walk, dust, and nightlight. Fingers fuse to form a rigid platform, form the outer wing feathers, clavicle bones fuse to form a wishbone, increase strength in the shoulder region, flight muscles, place of attachment. Rain in the distance is a fair wait still. And as the scattering of stars divests from colony and descends onto the block, trees, power, and roof lines, early June, early evening, shadows speak in my neighborhood. The smell of a body lingered. What was still measurable? Reconnaissance on the ground, gathered, awake, assessing for danger. We joined the fray, taking in a great noise, like nothing we had ever seen, honoring our loss. Press. Mass together, reasons to gather in purpose, shelter, warmth, food, joy, communication, the roots of crowd, positioned as pedagogy, constantly teaching myself to steady in the jostling of a throng, for food and foraging areas, information and open images, uncovered domains, subdomains, sharing leverages, vulnerability and exposure, shared knowledge across attack surfaces. Open sourcing in a loctic system. Outsourced work comes back crowd, broadcasted problems to a public. Agitated exchange, murmur and ascendance onto lentic, rest, the marsh, slow moving. Unconscious, wander with one eye open quality. It's not your average bug bounty platform. Bring your own unique cultural background as a member of a global community best serving the rich. Diversity, powering magical experiences like spotting food or animals in photos or identifying the emotional impact of sentences. Daily solicited from online open calls, distributing problem solving in new production models by the hour, leaders of water cooling solutions owned by the entity who originally broadcast the problem. Rewards may include praise or intellectual satisfaction. Volunteer work, thriven sparse. Analog crowds gather in lessons, learned, cued, ordered, consumption, bored, boring, waiting for the fresh remains of products and running shoes and donuts. Ordered crowds line up 2 blocks down Water Street, knowing nothing of death on that street. The beauty of a crowd marching a memorial there every year. Our prayers up, our medicine down. The birds know. There, even now, in the worst conditions, as new crowds form, gathering more police amid intensified touristry. Who wins the right to be safe? Wins sales, properties, efficiencies. Wind throw, rush, event, crowd knows. These present holds mark history. They provide cover. Earmark protests protect the worrying possibilities. For a golden mile, my 25 years of ports and bridges, intersections and libraries and embassies and offices and who streets and courts, carceral facilities, farms, galleries. Crowd-funded barricades resist celebrity, embraced in ceremony. A winged body is black in constellation, feathered muscle over the common. Hollow bones are lighter, fly faster, vocal bodies until we disperse, thinking like water, difficult to contain, skies and wind. The block We elements shelter soft landings for hollowed-out heads unhoused in encampments. Modular relations refuse tent city cops for all emergencies. We keep us safe. We attend to trial. To soar, to persist on how to disperse spells on a wing's breath, studying for a hex-proof life, sprinting down a crowded avenue, discordant notes bend. We are in a garden with the blue-black streaming above are all songbirds. All songbirds are land birds, gathering all this time. How have you been here all this time on this land and not noticed? Survivorship that first year is about 50%. Aggressiveness, level 5. What happened? They attacked everyone walking by my home, drew blood in one case. We're all carrying umbrellas now. Crow Tracks report, June 8th, 2023. We are not easy to communicate with, so often made to be read aloud, interpreters of transcription too, as black bodies subject to climate. Bearded notes along power lines at a pre-roost stop, rapping musical scores of bodies become swaps of intel and warmth with luck, daytime played, and nightly rest. Where birds rest, may harbor histoplasmosis. It's a fungus, it's harmful to people who breathe in airborne spores when soil at a roost site is disturbed. So people do not disturb corvids at their tavernous hollows. Avert your gaze from their torpor. Hush as you happen along trails. Crack, crack, in oral lure. Assure who is being heard that you are listening. For birds, animals capable of using human language, inherent in complex vocal systems, foreground calls quell with small, useful gifts, an unimposing presence, still a threat. Tend to home, to neighborhood, care, a party to several dozen distinct vocalizations when combined with clicks and gestures form the buildings, blocks of complex communication, demonstrating theory of mind. Black as the night is black as the eyes. Their eyes gather rhythm and form synthesized de novo. Inborn crystals know where to visit, where to flow home to as watershed, gathering numbers across the ethos of East Van. Quickening messengers flow, time immemorial. Blooms of soot, an everyday Newtonian wash, southern sky at dusk, this city late summer. Rooks take flight in a low-end concert theory, a widely distributed family. The designation of songbirds includes the position of feet, unconcerned strides. Street hop lessons well in the anatomy, vocal areas moving as water sheds shores onto Still Creek, independent muscle controls. Either side, syrinx folds produce different sounds, in theory 2 different songs, that is 2 impressive vocal repertoires at the same time. Evolving human speech, in part alarm calls, constant gains of new sounds throughout their lives, great litanies and poetry, great vocal repertoires for when one dies and is discovered by another. Memorial, a measure of danger. Place, a twig or a piece of grass upon a corpse. Accumulating coverings, perhaps mount a mating ritual, or peck and tear until no body is left. And after, one stretches out its neck, invites allopreening. Enduring family, together, grooms each other. Aggressiveness, level 3. What happened? The group ate all of my dog's food from a sealed bag, a sealed family-sized bag of salt and vinegar chips, and a sealed bag of beet chips. Crow Tracks report, July 30th, 2023. The empty set of a vagabond to the quantity of family, a mental number line, both behavioral and neuronal, represents an empty set, both creative and practical. Rhyme, even when there are thousands in the sky is not black with them, the sky is yellowed by smoke. Particles, irritating airways, fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and other volatile chemicals. The forest finds the shoreline a heartbeat. How it streams now after many lakes, water slowing, refracting days of light, an eye to movement, crown, canopy, many snags, clear views in all directions, soft whistles, signal, new entanglements. Open, a non-pointed gaze. Let the bird come to you. On the grounds, 2 of us stopped to watch a campus corvid of the Oaks right a small container still full of dipping sauce, garbage, all of us providing so much garbage. In highway form, being able to fly is better than being able to drive. Streaming through dimensions, some are ridden by fae, some are fae. Gathering kith and kin and messages, mythical beaches, mythical beasts herald the international airport. Plays with a small bouncy ball, whelk dropping, corner of Moncton Street and number 1. Down the road from historic column. In winter, nabs, skiers, gear from a backpack. Stories older than the middens at White Lake. White flakes, white blackbirds spotted at Bear Creek, traditional hunting and gathering grounds. Wayward jeans, the brittle feathers, hand-raised and exposed to human objects. Canuck, I don't know if you ever heard of Canuck. Canuck rode the SkyTrain, tried many things, undaunted by humans. This badgering, larcenist, fare-eating thief was actually a cultural influencer. We honored him in the city, resisting criminality and masqueradry somehow, some kind of subjectivity. He's been gone 5 years now, but everybody remembers him. Aggressiveness, level 1. What happened? Attacked me out of the blue. For what? It's December. It's not even a tax season. Weird. Crow-Tracks report, December 12th, 2023. Sometimes a cloak above Grandview Highway is a parallel commute to the autos below. Sometimes they fly past my balcony, stories up, and could I lean out, we would brush feathers and remember each other, rarely conspicuously alone, across open country, rarely flapping in particularly straight lines, maneuvering as the fray demands. A patient, methodical, flapping movement is air. We hear the moving, rare in the city to hear the air. Obsidian flyways above, talking to the sky. Auto wait below, bereft, kept in touch. So-and-so has left the march. I am traffic, always looking to the sky, braced for aggression. Confirmed fatalities slowing, regulated, suddenly stops. Hazy sky, the air is filling more. Particles pass through the palm of my hand until an asteroid, barely specks of fury and irretrievable loss, are dull thuds hitting one after another. The blue-black constant streaks of indifference and the bedazzling streetlights whipping inner space. Tonight, the stars, beads in their open eyes, sleep a bewildering murmur, readying to do what it takes to keep respiratory distress at bay. So just a couple more poems. Corridors light, ultraviolet, the view of the hues and the patterns missing from the human red, green, blue range. Ultraviolet as bees see, dark nectar guides at the throat of a flower. Auroras of planets, ripe berries, body fluids, bacteria in whitish violet, light on the black tuppence for the birds, Vanta black for all, and for all the Creative Commons. Here, where ancient hydrology used to work perfectly, old-growth forests full of coniferous trees slowly filtered the water down, and all the Pacific salmon streamed through Still Creek home. The birds remember its name, their names. In 2012, chum salmon began to spawn at the Vancouver portion of Still Creek for the first time in nearly 8 decades. Salmon spawned behind the Canadian Tire and Grandview Highway in late October, early November for 5 years in a row from 2012 to 2016, and this was thanks in a major part to the work of the Still Creek stream keepers. Dedicated to beauty, living memory, they remember a coal spill, 2015. This geoduck and a sludge of metallurgical coal come from open boxcars, come from the Kootenays, topping elements, agents curb coal dust down the line, spilling into Silver Light staccato streams. And since 2016, the salmon haven't returned. Shadows deepen, the blackberries will strangle you. Should you fall asleep and rest too long, a foot of vine will drag your neck. The thorny ropes let down over skins of alder, branches above banks of wet pink balsam. The remaining riparian forest is overrun by Himalayan blackberry and Himalayan balsam. Spread through the watercourses, drought-resistant proliferations creep the trail. The thick monoculture outcompetes local vegetation. In the bowl of mountains amid pale blue, 2s and 10s begin to ruffle. Flutter the hearts of gray deepening mats. Overhead edges dissipate, more light switch on. Details dissolve over the corner near the local bookstore, glow, congested shelves, spilling out the door, bathing the street in light. Evenings begin earlier this time of year, crowds thinking ahead to organizing February. Managing Body's Node is the hardest time to get through and out and ride and walk. It can't rain all the time. In 2020, it snowed, and the alleys and the sidewalks and the marching were icy hours of unwanted empathy. Weapons to give all at once. In each outlined singular body is the possibility of collective amassing, tens and tens in the green cast endless heralding streams, hundreds, thousands. Despite ourselves, we are caught looking up, moments suspended, distracted from the everyday routine. We are familiars above the fray, and we recommit every day, despite irretrievable losses. Renewal will come in the loaming violet hours. In the ragged spots across stave, the call's response. The glowing warm sound emerges. Blue hours. Simultaneous stirring every day. It's hard to say who starts to move first and where along the creek. The rustling sound builds, attack, and delay. The pioneering design in the misty morning heart rises in vortices, black-eyed rising, then dissipating. A sign of curves, alternating banks and shoals, where crystals have formed avalanche layers deposited by storms. Precious bonds vary like all of us staring in infinite jest as structures replicate glitter. Is it better to listen or to talk along these corridors? Use your wits. Little by little does the trick. Necessity is the mother of invention. What is discovered only serves to show that nothing's known. Nothing's known to what is yet to know. In the evening afternoons, the snow weight visible in the clouds, I have a memory. Some old path in a park in a ball diamond near Fullerton. In winter, there under the cedar boughs, weighed down in the drifts, was a hovel, and I could live there, I thought, with the birds, if needed, a hovel away from home, like the poet's blackbird, inert to winter, rest for the hollow bones carrying the weight of feathers, the wetland warmth, subject to expansion, and enclosures of marrow and lung. To be still each evening, an intermittent brook, there is a portal. And gathering crowds led by Silver Creek salmonberries remember the nests, cups of twigs lined with softer materials. Remember yourself, remember you as one who was there in a neighborhood. Neutral ground, safety, zones for evacuation. Remember you as angels or ministries of flight. Let them notice your habits and your kindness. Your furtive excess open to bright disturbances. In a world well past the limit of my eyesight with its errata, all hope grows grit and thick with these ominous black specks. Thank you.
That was such a good reading. Cecily, Leila, thank you for the meaning you make, for the way you move language around. That was incredible. On your way out tonight, stop at the back, get a book for Cecily to sign. And then next, y'all, we're going to Berkeley because we're going to go see Leila's film screening at BAMFA. On February 22nd, SPT is hosting a collective reading at the Finnish Hall in Berkeley of Lynn Haginian's My Life. And then we will be going back to see Cecily read again as a part of the Holloway series at Berkeley, okay? Thank you all for being here tonight. It was so wonderful. And take care this week, and we'll see you again soon.